These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
Tensions erupted on The View as Karoline Leavitt's revelations left the hosts scrambling to respond. The discussion quickly turned into a heated exchange, drawing nationwide attention.
Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Karoline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good look.
Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened, why her statements are making headlines, and what this means for the future of the show. If you've been wondering what sparked this intense debate, you're in the right place. The View is known for stirring controversy, but this time, the debate escalated beyond what the hosts anticipated.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Here is Whoopi Goldberg saying she only got the job due to wokeness. What?
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
No, Whoopi. Corinne Jean-Pierre got the job because of wokeness. You and your old mate Joy Behar may have your jobs because of wokeness, but do not smear a competent professional woman like Karoline Leavitt with your nonsense, and don't lie about this being her first job. We know what you're doing there.
Karoline Leavitt's role as White House press secretary immediately made her a target for criticism, with media figures questioning her credentials and motives. Critics attempted to dismiss her rise in politics, but their attacks didn't land as expected.
Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. The left pretends to be a champion of women until they find one who is a conservative. Once that happens, they love nothing more than tearing down women with the most petty and vacuous of insults. Leavitt appears to be a fierce operator, but she's also 27 and arguably quite glamorous. So of course, the kind and progressive voices at The View reacted to her appointment like this.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
Instead of weakening her credibility, the backlash highlighted deeper issues in political discourse, leaving the hosts of The View on the defensive. The conversation took a sharp turn when Joy Behar, a longtime advocate for women's empowerment, made a remark that raised serious questions about consistency in messaging.
And the abuse continued.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Rather than acknowledging Leavitt's professional experience, Behar attributed her success to appearance, sparking immediate debate. This moment fueled discussions about hypocrisy in media, especially when it comes to how conservative women are portrayed. How can public figures champion equality while simultaneously undermining female professionals based on personal factors?
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was a 10. Karoline Leavitt actually comes with real job qualifications, unlike Biden's DEI hires, Joyless Behar. This commentator doubled down, saying Karoline Leavitt was only hired by Donald Trump because she's a 10. You know that what it is. Actually, she's quite capable, unlike the last press secretary who was only hired because she was a black lesbian.
Karoline didn't hesitate to push back, challenging the selective nature of media narratives. This exchange wasn't just about The View, it reflected larger tensions in political and media landscapes. The conversation surrounding Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View continued to escalate, drawing reactions across media platforms.
Echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie, and yes, you will take political like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the...
In response to the discussion, commentators from multiple networks weighed in, with the debate spilling over into political circles. Meanwhile, Karoline didn't just address the remarks made about her. She took on broader media narratives, particularly how ideological bias influences political commentary. She made it clear the current political landscape is shifting, and those relying on media-driven narratives for relevance may find themselves struggling to maintain influence. According to Leavitt, the traditional media cycle has thrived on manufactured controversy. But with public trust in journalism declining, that era may be fading. She emphasized that substance and policy discussions are becoming more important than media-driven distractions, making it clear that a political shift is underway. As the debate continued, Whoopi Goldberg attempted to reframe the discussion, focusing on the role of wokeness in shaping civil rights progress. She argued that wokeness had been instrumental in expanding opportunities, stating, "Without that wokeness, you might not have that job." However, Leavitt challenged that comparison, questioning whether modern political activism truly aligns with historic civil rights movements. She pointed out that advocating for ideological uniformity contradicts the original mission of inclusivity and open discourse. The exchange quickly became a larger discussion on how modern political terminology is being used, particularly in shaping public perception. Karoline argued that discrediting opposing views in the name of progress contradicts the very principles of open dialogue. Whoopi defended her stance, arguing that societal shifts require active advocacy, but Karoline countered by emphasizing that advocacy should welcome all perspectives, not suppress dissenting voices. The tension in the studio was palpable, and social media erupted once again, with audiences debating both sides of the issue. And as the fallout from this conversation continues to unfold, one thing remains clear: the debate surrounding political discourse in mainstream media is far from settled. The debate intensified when Whoopi Goldberg shifted focus from Karoline Leavitt's statements about media trust to a broader discussion on identity politics. Instead of addressing the concerns Karoline raised about the decline of media credibility, Whoopi framed the conversation around historical inequalities. She argued that wokeness played a role in breaking barriers, stating, "Because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women couldn't get into the colleges they wanted, this is all women." However, Leavitt stood firm, challenging whether modern wokeness aligns with its original intent or if it has become a tool for division. Whoopi continued, claiming that Leavitt misunderstood wokeness, stating, "It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought, for you to stand at that podium." She emphasized that progress had allowed for figures like White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre to succeed. But Karoline pushed back, arguing that wokeness today is less about equality and more about ideological conformity. Whoopi's attempt to reframe the issue didn't land as intended, as the discussion quickly pivoted to a more controversial topic: claims made on The View regarding Elon Musk and alleged political threats. Karoline called out the panel for spreading unfounded accusations while simultaneously criticizing conservatives for so-called conspiracy theories. She pointed out how legacy media narratives have changed over the years, often adapting to fit shifting political agendas. She reminded them that, for years, mainstream media figures have mocked, criticized, and misrepresented political figures, shaping public perception without accountability. Karoline emphasized that millions of Americans no longer accept these narratives without question, highlighting how viewers are now seeking independent sources over traditional outlets. For decades, The View and other legacy media platforms have operated with little pushback, often silencing dissenting voices and controlling public opinion. But this debate marked a shift, demonstrating that media narratives are now being challenged in real time. Karoline Leavitt's push for media accountability is finally forcing legacy outlets to answer for their reporting. She may be young, but her direct approach is shaking up the White House press pool, a move that mainstream media figures aren't happy about. Her latest announcement, a game-changing shakeup in the White House press briefings. Leavitt introduced a new media section aimed at holding traditional outlets accountable for biased reporting and misinformation about President Trump. "We will call you out when we feel your reporting is wrong or misleading," she declared. For decades, organizations like the Associated Press and White House Correspondents Association controlled press access. But now, that control is shifting. 2 front-row seats, once reserved for White House staff, will now be given to independent media voices willing to challenge established narratives. And if that wasn't enough to cause outrage, Leavitt also restored press passes for 440 journalists whose credentials were revoked under the Biden administration. Many praised this move for increasing transparency, but the View's panel had a very different reaction. Instead of celebrating press freedom, the host dismissed the change, arguing that traditional media should remain the dominant voice in the room. Sonny Hostin mocked the idea that new media reporters could be qualified to attend briefings, implying only legacy media deserved that authority. Whoopi Goldberg chimed in, warning that without proper media oversight, people might just spout stuff without accountability. Yet critics pointed out the irony. For years, mainstream media, including The View, has been accused of doing exactly that. Pushing selective narratives, controlling public perception, and limiting dissenting voices. With this shift in media representation, the debate over who controls the narrative is just beginning. And judging by The View's reaction, not everyone is ready for this change. Now that Karoline Leavitt is holding media figures accountable, suddenly, The View wants to talk about journalistic standards. Whoopi Goldberg attempted to redefine wokeness, conflating it with civil rights history, rather than addressing how it is applied in modern discourse. The discussion shifted away from Leavitt's original point, merit-based leadership versus identity-based selection. At its core, this debate isn't about ethics or journalism. It's about control over the narrative. For years, mainstream media dictated public perception, but now millions of Americans are turning to alternative news sources, and that shift has legacy media figures panicked. Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in U.S. history, called out traditional outlets for losing public trust. "We know for a fact that many legacy media outlets have pushed false narratives about this president and his family," she stated. "We will call you out when your reporting is misleading or inaccurate." This marked a shift, forcing The View and other platforms to reckon with their unchecked influence. For years, these hosts have spread narratives with little pushback, but those days are ending. Leavitt's firm stance signals a new era of accountability in media, and her appointment draws comparisons, particularly with her predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre, who often emphasized her historic identity in the role. While representation is important, competence speaks louder than labels. Even former press secretary Jen Psaki criticized the repetitive messaging approach, calling it diminishing. Yet, The View continues to frame discussions around identity politics, rather than substantive policy debates. But Leavitt isn't engaging in that game. She's focused on the job itself. Still, The View wasn't done trying to undermine her. After failing to discredit her with personal attacks, the panel attempted a classic gotcha moment, this time on illegal immigration. When asked about the 3,500 arrests made by ICE since Trump returned to office, she flipped the narrative. The panel pressed her, hoping she'd admit Trump's policies were unfair to illegal immigrants. Instead, she reminded them, breaking immigration laws is a crime. All of them broke the law by entering illegally. With that, their argument crumbled. Instead of conceding, the panel doubled down, attempting to reframe the issue as a cultural shift rather than law enforcement. The last administration didn't see it that way, yet the reality remained. Prioritizing law-abiding citizens over illegal entry isn't new policy, it's enforcement of existing law. For years, mainstream media has claimed to fight for justice, but this debate exposed that their concern was about pushing a political narrative. Karoline saw it for what it was, a transparent attempt to trap her. She didn't just hold her ground, she exposed the contradictions in their argument. "I work for a president who is getting things done and delivering on his promises," she declared. And she did it with confidence. Karoline isn't just challenging The View, she's taking on legacy media as a whole. She understands how the media operates, and now the public is seeing it too. Legacy media has controlled narratives for years, selectively shaping public perception. But Karoline is shutting it down in real time. And the best part, the more they push back, the more they prove her point. In a final blow, Karoline called out how media outlets have catered to partisan agendas, leaving them disconnected from public sentiment. The Democrats are in disarray because they've become a globalist party, spending taxpayer dollars on useless priorities. For years, these platforms have been a mouthpiece for one side, echoing whatever narrative they were given. But now, that influence is slipping away. With Karoline Leavitt holding the media accountable, mainstream outlets are struggling to respond. For years, they've pushed one-sided narratives, but the moment someone challenges them, they crumble under scrutiny. Karoline isn't just exposing their bias, she's forcing them to confront their own downfall in real time. The majority of Americans want responsible leadership, not radical agendas. And as political priorities continue shifting, media platforms must adapt or risk irrelevance. The president will continue prioritizing Americans, and the left can either get on board or prepare to lose another election, Leavitt declared. But this, it's only the beginning. With media influence rapidly changing, legacy outlets are desperate to regain control, but failing miserably. So the question remains, how much longer can they keep up this charade? Are we witnessing the decline of mainstream media dominance, or will they find a way to regain influence? Drop a comment below with your thoughts. And before you go, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more hard-hitting breakdowns. This fight is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. See you next time